Let's just take a collective breath. Seriously. Inhale, exhale. Are you okay? Because after what we just witnessed, it feels like no one who loves Firehouse 51 is okay right now. For years, we've tuned in every week, accepting an unspoken contract. We know the stakes are high. We know these characters run into danger when everyone else runs out. We've braced for impact. We've seen close calls. And we've mourned losses that felt like losing a real friend. But some lines, you just assume a show will never cross. Some characters feel so foundational, so woven into the very fabric of the series, that their departure feels simply impossible. Christopher Herrmann was one of those characters. The heart, the soul, the grumpy, lovable, advice-giving, Molly's running father figure of Firehouse 51. And now, we're forced to confront the chilling silence where his voice should be. The latest episode didn't just give us a close call or a hospital bed cliffhanger. It delivered a blow so final, so gut-wrenching, that the entire One Chicago fandom is still reeling. We need to talk about it. We have to unpack the accident, the aftermath, and the devastating news of Herrmann's death. The call that changed everything. It started like so many other calls, a roaring inferno in an abandoned industrial complex. The bells rang, the sirens wailed, and Truck 81 rolled out, ready to do what they do best. There was no sense of foreboding, no ominous music hinting at the tragedy to come. It was just another day on the job. That's what makes it so much more brutal. It was routine, until it wasn't. The fire was unpredictable, a beast with a mind of its own, lashing out with flashovers and threatening structural collapse. Herrmann, ever the seasoned veteran, was directing his team, his voice a steady presence amidst the chaos. He was exactly where he was supposed to be, doing his job with the courage and experience we've come to rely on. He was making sure the younger firefighters were safe, shouting orders, and assessing the risks. He was being Herrmann. Then, the world exploded. A secondary blast, hidden deep within the building's infrastructure, ripped through the floor. It was sudden, violent, and utterly unforgiving. The screen filled with fire and debris. For a moment, all we heard was ringing, the disoriented shouts of the other firefighters, and the sickening groan of twisting metal. When the dust began to settle, one person was missing. The search was frantic. Bowden's voice, usually a pillar of calm, was tight with controlled panic. Cruz, Gallo Ritter, their faces were masks of terror as they screamed his name into the smoky haze. Every second that passed felt like an eternity. We, the viewers, were right there with them, our hearts pounding against our ribs, chanting under our breath, "Get up, Herrmann. Come on, get up." The silence after the sirens. Finding him was somehow worse than the not knowing. He was pinned, partially conscious, but the damage was severe. The extraction was a masterclass in tension, every move fraught with peril. Seeing him, so vulnerable and broken, being loaded into the ambulance was the first crack in the dam of our collective composure. Mauch, his best friend, his brother in every way that mattered, looked utterly shattered, his face a portrait of pure anguish. The show then did what it does best. It shifted the battlefield from the fireground to the sterile, quiet halls of Chicago Med. And this is where the true emotional horror began. The waiting room. That purgatory of hope and fear where the strongest heroes are rendered utterly helpless. Firehouse 51 gathered, their faces smudged with soot and streaked with tears. The usual post-shift banter was replaced by a heavy, suffocating silence. Each character processed their fear in their own way. Severide paced like a caged tiger, radiating a quiet fury. Kid tried to hold everyone together, her own composure hanging by a thread. Bowden stood like a statue, the immense weight of his responsibility etched onto his face. He wasn't just a chief. He was a father watching one of his sons fight for his life. The most painful moments came from Mouch. He just sat there, staring into space, lost. We saw flashes of their shared history, the schemes to make Molly's a success, the arguments that were really just expressions of love, the quiet moments of understanding that only decades of friendship can build. To see him so broken was to understand the magnitude of what was at stake. And then Cindy Herrmann arrived. The strength of that woman has always been incredible. But seeing her desperate, pleading eyes searching for a glimmer of hope was almost too much to bear. Her arrival made it all too real. This wasn't just a firefighter. This was a husband, a father of 5. An entire world revolved around this man, and that world was teetering on the brink of collapse. The words no one wanted to hear. We've been here before. We've sat in that same waiting room, praying for good news. Usually, after an agonizing wait, a doctor comes out with a cautious but hopeful report. It was touch and go, but he's a fighter. He's stable. We were all waiting for that line. We were depending on it. It never came. When the doctor finally emerged, her expression said it all. There was no hope in her eyes, only a profound clinical sadness. The words she spoke were a blur of medical jargon: internal bleeding, catastrophic trauma, irreversible damage. But it all boiled down to a few simple, soul-crushing words. We did everything we could. The camera didn't need to show us over-the-top reactions. It focused on the subtle shifts. Bodden's shoulders slumping, as if the weight he'd been carrying finally crushed him. Cindy letting out a sound that was less a cry and more the sound of a soul fracturing. Mouch simply closing his eyes, a single tear tracing a path through the grime on his cheek. Christopher Herrmann was gone. The episode ended there, leaving us in the echoing silence of that hospital hallway. No resolution, no glimpse of a funeral, just the raw, gaping wound of the loss. It was a bold, brutal, and utterly devastating narrative choice. More than a firefighter, he was the heart. Why does this one hurt so much? Because Herrmann wasn't just a character on a TV show. He was the embodiment of Firehouse 51's spirit. He was the link to the old guard, the grumpy cynic with the biggest heart in Chicago. He was the one who would give you a lecture about fiscal responsibility 1 minute and then slip you a 20 from his own pocket the next. He was the man who, alongside Bowden and Mouch, built the foundation of the Firehouse family we love. He was the co-owner of Molly's, the neutral ground, the community hub where cops, doctors, and firefighters could all come together. Molly's without Herrmann behind the bar, polishing a glass and offering unsolicited life advice, is simply unimaginable. Think of the legacy he leaves behind. He was a mentor to Cruz, a father figure to Ritter and Gallo, and the steadfast rock for his own family. His relationship with Mouch was one of the purest and most realistic portrayals of male friendship on television. They were cantankerous and supportive, always bickering and always having each other's back. How does Mouch even begin to navigate a world without his other half? This loss doesn't just remove a character, it fundamentally alters the DNA of the show. It creates a vacuum that no new character can ever truly fill. It changes every dynamic, every relationship, every single scene that takes place within the walls of 51. The coming weeks will undoubtedly be a journey through grief. We will watch this family navigate the impossible,